Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard the Wright Flyer. This is your captain, Randy Wright speaking, and as always, I'm joined on our state of the art radio program by my first officer, Jeremy Grapington. Folks, this will be the final boarding call, so if you please, claim your seats, fasten your seatbelts, kick back, relax, and enjoy the show while Jeremy and I go ahead and delve into the pre flight checklist, as there really is a lot of news and information to get to before we may fully indulge you with your in flight entertainment. Well, folks, what can we say? This entire 2016 season has been weird. Donald Trump hits Twitter again, this time being flippant about our nuclear arsenal. You know, one of the things that I have been so fortunate with, and Jeremy has been so fortunate with, is we were born at a period where we saw the USSR collapse. We saw the Cold War come to an end. We recall a time when Reagan stood there in Berlin and told Gorbachev to tear down the wall. But the problem is, Trump not only wants to build a wall and somehow magically make Mexico pay for it, he also is now saying, let's have an arms race. He's wanting to rekindle the Cold War. And to my mind, this is dangerous because it is never a good idea to try and thrust the world towards instability. But what do we see with Trump each and every time? We see that he is trying to thrust the United States of America into a position of instability. He is forcing us into a position that is untenable, one that is unsustainable, one that is not in the best interest of the true ultimate wielders of popular sovereignty in this once thriving and flourishing representative republic of ours, we the people. No, for Trump, it's about himself. It's about going on to force instability upon the American people. This is one of those things that our founding fathers didn't want to have happen. Recall that when you look at the opening lines to the preamble to our shared United States Constitution, it says in no mistakable terms that we, the people, came together to create this government, to promote the domestic tranquility, to ensure the blessings of liberty, not just for our current generations, but for those generations which have yet to be born and those generations which are up and coming. Unfortunately, that is not what we're seeing right now. What we're seeing right now is Donald Trump doubling down on his bravado. And literally, there is no better term, more apt of a term to describe what he's doing here. And of course, it shows that he cannot control himself. And I think that that is one of the things that we've always said is that this sort of work requires restraint. That when you are seeking to have the highest office in the land, when you are seeking to wield the reins of political power of the free world, you need to have restraint, particularly when the United States Constitution has placed all sorts of good and meaningful limitations on the power of the chief executive. Of course, part of the problem that we're suffering right now is that we have gone so far to distance and divorce ourselves from the clear and concise language and limitations that were placed on the highest office in the land by the clear and concise language contained within the four corners of our shared United States Constitution. You know, one of the things we've always said is that this sort of bravado that Trump is showing is dangerous. It threatens us. It pushes us ever closer to the precipice of tyranny, despotism, and abject oppression. And that is something that the United States of America has never stood for, and it is something that we can never stand for. Nevertheless, Trump continues to push this narrative. Therefore, the world is left in a more precarious position because Trump refuses to acknowledge the restraints that his office has. And he, once again, proves that he is consistently inconsistent.
Well, Randy, I think this would be a perfect place and time to say, "I told you so."
Oh, yes.
We said things like this were going to happen. We warned about it time and time again. And now with him talking about an arms race, well, let's look at all the players that are involved with the arms race. You've got North Korea, you've got Russia, China, Iran, and then let's look at all of the little cave dwelling podunk countries like Syria, Lebanon, and the likes of those, all getting involved too. We know that China and India, Pakistan, Iran, they're all in cahoots with each other. They're all selling secrets with each other and doing arms trading and deals. Benghazi was all part of that with the illicit and illegal drug running or gun running and weapons running that we know was going on over there. So why is it that Trump, is he again just, clenching his Cheetoed hands and beating his chest, saying, I'm the king of the world? Because that's what he's sounding like. He's sounding like a Tin Pot dictator. He thinks that he's going to be able to do whatever he wants. Nobody's going to be able to hold him in check. When he walks into a room, he speaks and people listen. Where does he have the authority to do this? He doesn't. There's no constitutional provision that allows him to do this. He wants to talk about an arms race. I'm going to rebuild the military. It's going to be great. It's going to be good again. It's going to be great again. No, it's not. What you're doing is you're puffing your chest out, and someone's going to walk by like, a kid at a birthday party with a needle popping birthday balloons, and they're going to deflate your chest, you bloviated windbag, and you're just going to spit and sputter all over the world. That's what's going to happen. And in the meantime, when that happens, people think that other countries think we are weak now. They look at us as being weak now. Wait until they take all the wind out of your sails there, Trumpy. They're going to look at us and they're going to say, oh, well, they were weak before. Now we can just roll in and crush them.
Right. One of the things that we've come up with here at Radio Aviation Excellence, the Wright Flyer, is the notion of the detente wing of the gutless opposition party, or GOP. Detente is the old Cold War notion of MAD, or mutually assured destruction. For generation after successive generation, the United States lived in perpetual fear of nuclear holocausts brought on by the USSR. As early as the Manhattan Project in World War II, the Russians had infiltrated our most secretive program and managed to get their hands on the bomb. This means that before the guns of World War II even fell silent, the Cold War's opening salvos had begun. We were placed in an exceedingly precarious position. We were essentially led to believe that the end of the world was just around the corner, and this was all thanks to, what was it? Lack of restraint, lack of discipline, but above all, nefarious forces acting within the confines of these United States of America that were attempting to essentially bring about a Soviet revolution here in the United States. And if you think about Karl Marx's dialectic in the Communist Manifesto, it was all about destroying in violent form and fashion the pre-existing governmental structure and edifice that pre-existed whatever they were attempting to foist upon the society. And that is something that is not new. It's something that we see has been reinvigorated by the disastrous 2 terms of the Barack Hussein Obama regime, but it is something that we have faced before. It is not new. But again, we know that they thrust this on us and placed us into that multi-generational war. And yet, here we are. I fear that we are headed into another sort of Cold War here. Putin said that a new arms race is about to begin. This madness and, this sort of chicanery is something we should not stand for. And of course, it also explains why we shouldn't be attempting to appease the former KGB agent. The more we attempt to appease, the more the Russians will see this as the perfect opportunity to try and flex their muscles as they see the United States as decadent and weak. Jeremy, it goes directly to the sort of thing that you were just mentioning with how they look at us as weak, how they view Trump as just this paragon of bovine excrement, for lack of a better term. And that really does aptly describe him. It really does aptly describe the sort of negativity that we're facing, both as a nation and as a people. And I don't foresee this getting better at any time in the foreseeable future.
Well, the thing is, he's not even president yet. He's not even president yet. And he's already making declarations, making statements that can be construed as threats. And people are giving him a pass. It doesn't make any sense to me. You know, during the time of our founding fathers, if any of them were in the position that Trump is in and made such irrational statements and comments and assertions about things, they would have been tarred and feathered. They would have been looked at as potentially treasonous to a certain degree. They would have been looked at as a domestic threat, because back then, our country, our elected representatives, and we the people, the ultimate wielders of sovereignty, took exception to any kind of threat or imposition to our republic. Why? Because we knew back then that any kind of threat like that, the first priority and prerogative was the preservation of the republic. And now nobody seems to give a damn about our country remaining free as a sovereign republic. Instead, they just want to be fat and happy. Their guy won. He can do no wrong. They want to keep calling everybody that are anti-Trump now. They want to refer to them as snowflakes. Here's the thing. See, Randy, we're going to take that term, snowflakes, and we're going to show people exactly what snowflakes are capable of doing. Okay? See, people want to attach them to, you know, the leftist and the alt-right and all this other crap. The gays and lesbians, they want to call them snowflakes and sissies and all this other stuff. Here's the thing with the snowflake. All it takes is one snowflake to begin the making of an avalanche. That's all it takes. Because once one snowflake falls and lays on the ground, and then more snowflakes fall and lay, and then they start compounding on each other. When they start acting in concert with each other, then the avalanche will eventually happen. See, this is what they don't understand. They're not thinking things clearly. They're not thinking things with forethought or thinking things ahead. You want to come up with these terminologies and all these different things. See, this is more propaganda that they don't understand is not boomerang proof. Therefore, it is not going to be efficient. It's not going to work. Because in order for propaganda to work, it has to be boomerang proof. Guess what?
Well, of course. And that's the thing. What's going on here is they are attempting to project their own self-value, their own interests, their own worth onto the mafioso quafioso. They think that he is going to be the end-all be-all that is going to satisfy all that they desire, when in fact nothing could be further from the truth. He is a disaster. His lack of restraint, his lack of discipline is coming back to haunt the United States. This is part of why we have diplomacy. I know it may seem as though diplomacy is something that doesn't have much credence or doesn't carry much value, but in fact it does. If you don't act with diplomacy, you can easily plunge the nation into a war that we are ill-equipped to get into, and we will get into that more in detail later on. But what Trump has done here is he has unwittingly played right into the hands of Putin. He is essentially giving Putin the goose that laid the golden egg, something that he will just be able to make political hay out of time and time again. And see, this is part of the danger. This is why we said that you don't want to try and kiss up to the KG or former KGB agent, because again, Russia does not have America's best interests at heart or at mind. They are acting on their own initiative, from their own fruition, and for their own agenda. And that agenda is diametrically opposed to the dreams, hopes, and future aspirations of the true ultimate wielders of popular sovereignty in this once thriving and flourishing representative republic of ours, we the people. Unfortunately, the Lion Branch Trumpidians, who are still congregating in their Trumpidian tabernacle, don't care to see this. They don't want to see the truth. They want to keep dancing to the discordinal and disharmonious tune of the Pied Piper of disillusioned conservatives. But I don't think we can afford that. I seriously don't think we can afford that when we see what is happening right now. All the while, the interests of the American people are being placed in significant risk. I always considered myself fortunate to have seen the fall of the Soviet Union, just as I'm sure you have as well, Jeremy.
Sure.
However, I never dreamed that we would blunder our way into a second Cold War this quickly. But folks, we don't want you to take our words at face value for this. We want you to see this for yourself, to hear Putin's response from his own lips. And I actually have a video clip here that I'm going to key up that has the translator doing Putin's response to all of this. And I think it's important to listen into this just because it goes directly into what Jeremy and I are mentioning here, the sort of danger that we're facing with respect to all of this. So I'm going to go ahead and cue this up now. So here we go.
Vladimir Putin responded to Trump's tweet on an expanded nuclear arsenal.
Finally, just coming back to the point about Donald Trump's tweet yesterday, are you not concerned, though, that there is a danger of a new arms race if America is talking about boosting its nuclear arsenal?
Well, a new arms race. The prerequisites for the new arms race appeared when the United States withdrew from the Missile Defense Treaty, and this is obvious. It was not our intention. It was not started by us. We have to respond. If someone accelerates and speeds up the arms race, it's not us. But I'd like to underline, which is important for our domestic situation and domestic public, I'd like to say that we will never, once we are in the arms race, we will never spend too much, more than we can afford.
Evelyn Farkas, watching Vladimir Putin talk.
So what we see there is he's already trying to make his people feel, okay, we're not the ones pushing this. We're not the ones engaging in this sort of nonsense. So he's already made it to where Trump is the aggressor. Boy, that's not hard to do. And this is once again Putin just being able to outmaneuver Trump, basically being able to make Trump look like a saber-rattling idiot. And unfortunately, when you don't have constraint and when you are consistently inconsistent, this is the danger that we face. And it literally does make the United States of America the laughingstock of the world. You thought we were the laughingstock of the world under the disastrous 2 terms of the Barack Hussein Obama regime? This takes it to the next level.
See, here's the thing. Trump's always been a saber rattler. That's what you get with egotistical, maniacal maniacs. Because that's what he is. He throughout the whole campaign, oh, I'm going to lock her up. I'm going to throw her in jail. Blah, blah, this and that. And then all of a sudden, no, I can't do that to good people. So he gets everybody's blood boiling about something, then he backs off. See, the problem with that is it's just like any other bully, and that's exactly what he is a bully. Any other bully, all it takes is one time for you to get somebody's blood boiling so much that even when you back off, they're not going to. They're going to pursue you. Now, I'm all for taking the fight to individuals or other nations or countries or people that want to destroy the United States, that want to threaten and impugn our freedom and liberty. I'm all for it. Take the fight to them, kick their ass, be done with them, and then refortify back at the home base. I'm all for that. Trump doesn't think that way. He just wants to go and kick everybody's ass and light a bunch of brush fires that we've mentioned over a year ago. He just wants to set a bunch of fires and then leave it up to everybody else to put them out, to where he could say, I've got plausible deniability. Me and my Cheeto hands, we didn't do it. Wrong. You cannot behave that way. And Randy, this is what you were talking about with being diplomatic. You know, you rule with an iron fist that's coated with a velvet glove. You take the fight to the people that are most detrimental to you, but at the same time, you don't want to piss off anybody else that may be an ally of yours, or may not quite be an ally, but close enough to where you have a mutual enemy, and having one group of individuals or one country not within your alliance, but willing to side with you because you have a common enemy to take them out, you're going to piss all those people off.
Mm-hmm.
And it reminds me of the situation that we have with Israel. Our alliance with Israel is all but in shambles because of Obama.
Yeah,
because
particularly after Obama, what did today.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it's going to come down to it to where, and I told people when Obama was elected, I says one of the biggest things he's going to do, he's going to alienate the United States from their allies. And Israel being one of the first. See, if Israel was to completely cut ties with us, then you know who's going to follow? Australia, Great Britain, France,
Germany, all of them.
Germany, all of them. They're all going to step back and say, well, wait a second. The United States is behaving just like the way that Adolf Hitler was behaving during World War II. We can't allow that. We combated that then. We have to combat it now. And they're going to train their crosshairs on us. And Randy, this is the most detrimental thing. We spread our military too thin. We have a military all over the world. Okay, Trump is if he pursues this arms race issue, it's not going to strengthen our military. It's actually going to thin it out even more.
Yeah, of course.
What's going to happen? This is what's going to happen.
What Trump's tweet essentially did was it was stating that the United States needs to greatly expand her nuclear arsenal. Making such a statement was bound to elicit the very response that we saw from Putin here.
I'm surprised.
I don't think that Trump understands just how dangerous it is to play with the type of fire he's playing with here. This is exceedingly dangerous and places the United States' national security in extreme jeopardy. It's stupid, to say the least.
Well, I'm surprised. I'm surprised that other countries and nations haven't come out and said, wait a second, what the hell's wrong with you? You're not even president yet. Why are you doing this? You shouldn't be doing these things.
No. Yeah, there are individuals that have been asking that, but nations have not. You're right.
Right.
But you know what? None of this will matter to the Lion Branch Trumpidians. They'll sit there in their Trumpidian tabernacle and proclaim that this is Trump brilliantly negotiating. It says Newt Gingrich has come forth and said that Trump doesn't want to use the phrase drain the swamp anymore. But then changed his tune again when Trump said we would always be draining the swamp. When it comes to issues of the most significant national security concern, such as rekindling mutually assured destruction, consistency is necessary. Unfortunately, as we have warned for a year and 4 months now, Trump is consistently inconsistent. He has never once assumed a position that is consistent. He has never once stood for any principles or values because the man does not possess any. And so Trump is basically ill-prepared to lead our nation in these dark and trying times. But of course, what do the Lion Branch Trumpidians say? Oh, we have to give him 110 days. We have to give him time. because he's not president yet. Well, here's the problem. He's already acting as though he has taken the oath of office. And here's the thing. If you start acting before you are sworn into office, that means you are a tyrant. There is no other way to parse that, folks. There's no way to sugarcoat that. There's no way to candy coat that. Trump is acting as a tyrant, and we can ill afford to allow that to go forward. But, you know, Jeremy, we said Putin would turn on Trump, just as the media had, and that it was only a matter of time. Well, here it is. Trump has essentially played directly into the hands of Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin sees this as the perfect opportunity to flex the muscles of Russia, to say, see, the imperialistic running dog imperialists over there in the United States are trying to encroach upon the interests of Russia. They elected this unkempt, bad hair piece of a president that is going to basically destabilize geopolitics, and therefore we have to assume the role of being a stable force. And that's a problem. It literally is a problem. What the end of this might hold, I don't know yet. But I don't think it is good for our geopolitical hegemonic position, to say the least. Trump is continuing to display his ignorance. And this ignorance is threatening to push the United States into the precipice of war, death, and destruction. Think about this for a moment. We ended the Cold War when Ronald Reagan got up there and did everything he could to end the evil of empire, or, you know, the empire evil. Why? Why did he place such an emphasis on that? Well, he placed such an emphasis on that because he realized just how draining and degrading it is on the body politic of these United States of America to continually face these sorts of tyrants, these sorts of enemies over and over again, to wake up with each crack of dawn to realize that this could be our last day on earth. Do we really want to go back to that? Is this really what it's going to do to MAGA? Is this what MAGA means? Is MAGA some sort of goddess of destruction? I think so. I think this is the very telltale sign of the death and destruction and depravity that the Lion Branch Trumpidians are willing to thrust the United States into. And I don't think it's healthy for the United States.
Well, here's the problem that you mentioned with Russia stepping up and saying, you know, we have to take the lead on this. Here's the problem with it. Look at the political system that Russia follows. Communism slash socialism. They take the lead on this. They say, we have to step up because this isn't good for the whole world. This is not good. We have to step up to this. The rest of the world is going to look at our constitutional representative republic in a bad light. Not just as the butt of a joke, but now they're going to look at us as being a threat to them. So they're going to make a push to get rid of constitutional liberties and freedoms, everything that is ingrained in our society and our republic. And what are they going to put in its place? They're going to try to institute communism slash socialism in its place. Because if they say, well, we're communists and we're socialists, you know what? Look, we stopped this from happening. We put an end to this. It wasn't the Yankee dogs, the Americans that did it. It was us. We have a better political system. We know what's better for everybody. See, our system works. They're going to force people to gravitate to that. Hitler pulled a lot of the same crap when he was appointed as chancellor and then took over as Der Fuhrer. He pointed out to people that, no, you can't just do this and this. Judaism, Judeo-Christian beliefs, they don't work. Look, the Jews are the scum of the earth. They have to do this, this, and this. And the German people, for the vast majority of them, the ones that supported them, all latched onto it.
Of course, they bought
And
into
that's
the nonsense. And
right.
it's no matter how anyone feels about Donald Trump, one cannot ignore the blatant and obvious danger that this poses to the sanctity of our representative republic, as you were going to there. Trump, through a lack of knowledge and discipline, is placing America in an exceedingly precarious position. This is one of the sort of saber-rattling positions that starts wars. And since we're talking about nukes here, this is even worse. The Cold War is not something we would ever want repeated. It drained our resources and placed our nation in a perpetual state of fear. Even Putin was sitting there saying, well, I'm not going to spend lots of money. No, 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 no. You know, from Russia with my love. No. But here's the thing. It also provided the backdrop for the Fabian socialists to implement their anti-constitutional programs. And folks, there really is no way around that. Now, here's something that's interesting. Newsmax did a piece where Sean Spicer said that Trump's statements placed the world on notice. Essentially, Trump was saying that we should let it be an arms race. Why do we want to engage in another arms race? Is this really in the best interests of the United States? I don't think so. But one of the things that's important to recall is that tin pot dictators engage in this sort of misconduct in order to maintain a sense of national fervor. They try to unite the people based on a common enemy, thereby distracting the people from their true dark desires. That is to say, that they work relentlessly and incessantly towards stripping and depriving the people of their fundamental and inalienable God-given rights. And that's what you were getting at, Jeremy, and that is certainly what I've been getting at, and it's something that we've been warning about for a year and 4 months now. Trump is not operating from a position that is based in the natural law tenets that form the cornerstone of not only our shared United States Constitution, but also our fundamental and inalienable rights and our constitutionally endowed Federalist Representative Republic. And that's the problem. We have both sides of the political aisle right now, as we sit here speaking into this microphone, conveying this message unto our cherished listening passengers and audience members, seeking to dismantle our representative republic. They are seeking to replace it with a frothing at the mouth Fabian socialist leftist dystopia. And I don't think we can afford it. I really don't think we can afford that, particularly when you consider that the United States of America is in the midst of an identity crisis coupled with a slew of constitutional crises. And Trump is not improving this. Not at all.
You know what else we can't afford as a nation? When we have individuals that are staunch constitutionalists, people like Ted Cruz, for example, when they want to abandon and forsake their constitutional obligation and duty and their adherence to it by throwing their support behind somebody like Trump, why? Why do we allow ourselves to do this? Why do we tolerate these actions being done? See, you have the left and the Fabians, again, with their hijacking and abuse of terminology, taking words like tolerance and utilizing it in a fashion to create their own agenda or perpetuate an agenda that they have, in order, which all narrows down to, and if you connect the dots with it, their agenda is pretty simplistic if you think about it. They want to destroy the Constitution. That's it. So they're going to use everything that they can within the Constitution to destroy the Constitution. That's been their agenda from day one. So when they take words like tolerant or tolerate, you know, it's intolerant to call somebody gay when they practice an alternative lifestyle. Really? Really? No, I'm not going to apologize for it. I vehemently disagree. If I want to use the terminology gay to refer to somebody who, oh, I don't know, likes to, do very nefarious things with the same sex, then I'm going to call them gay. I'm going to call them weird. I'm going to call them whatever I want. Why? Well, I'm going to call them whatever the hell I want. Why? Because I'm not politically correct. And
that's why we call them sodomites, because Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed for that sort of nonsense.
But see, here's the thing. When we allow them to take words like tolerant or tolerate and use them for this agenda, here's the thing. We need to start taking these words back. It's just like at the beginning of our show with the term snowflake. See, they don't understand the dangers of these words if utilized or if they put any forethought into them. Okay? When they want to use them and manipulate them and change the meaning of them, what they're doing is they're not changing the meaning, just the meaning of the term. They're changing the meaning of what is right and true in existence. That is their agenda. So I say we take the word tolerant and we need to be intolerant with people that are willing to take the Constitution, throw it aside, abandon it, and forsaken it for Trumpery.
Sure. And, I want to go back to what Spicer had said. He said that basically when he made this appearance on CNN, he made the statement that this places the world on notice. On notice for what? Literally, what on earth is he placing us on notice for? On notice for Trump having a bad haircut? On notice for Trump being an idiot? Basically, Trump not knowing what the world is about? It's literally shocking to see this, but I've actually got the video clip, and I'm going to cue this up now so that we can see Spicer say this for himself, and then we will discuss it in further detail. It's just, it's the sort of shocking thing you can't ignore, folks. So here we go.
Different morning show before us. How dare you?
I'm sorry.
And there was a phone call that came in from Mr. Trump, and as we understand it, you put the host on the phone, or she took a phone call from the president-elect, and he, as she reported it, he said to her, let it be an arms race in terms of building up our nuclear capabilities with, I guess, against Russia. Let it be an arms race because we will outmatch them at every pass and outlast them all. What does let it be an arms race mean?
Well, I think it goes back to what I just said with respect to the tweet that he put out. He is going to do what it takes to protect this country. And if another country or countries want to threaten our safety or sovereignty, he's going to do what it takes.
Sure, but he's not waiting until another country threatens us. He's making these
proclamations. He's making it very clear. No, right, but he's making it very clear that other countries and other companies, you've seen with Kerry and other, he's going to make it clear that he will be an active president that will get things done.
Meaning he will use nuclear weapons if need be.
He will not take anything off the table. What it means is that he's not going to sit back and let another country act. He needs to send a clear and concise message, which he's done, that he is going to be a president that defends America's interests and defends the American people.
So you don't see these words as any sort of escalation?
No, absolutely not. It is him articulating how he is going to be as president.
Articulating what? Articulating his idiocy? Articulating his stupidity? That's the problem. You heard him try and make the connection there between Trump's saber rattling and the carrier crony corporatist deal. Mm-hmm. Now that's already a move past constitutionally responsible government. That is a move towards the type of chicanery and totalitarianism and authoritarianism that we will never accept in the United States. But that's the problem. The Lion Branch Trumpidians, like Spicer, are going to sit there and try and spice it up to make Trump look as though he is not this sort of totalitarian, They will basically spin doctor everything to try and create a false narrative. And as we have oftentimes reiterated on previous episodes of Radio Aviation Excellence, the Wright Flyer, that in the arena of American politics, that these sorts of erroneous perceptions oftentimes matter more than reality. But you saw he backpedaled. Well, no. Well, he's not going to take anything off the table. That means nuking people preemptively.
Well, here's the other problem, too. He, like you said, he tried making that connection with the business thing. See, Trump is trying to run this country, or setting himself up to try and run this country as a business. This is not a business. It is not a business when you deal with people's lives. If you want to look at it in that aspect, if you want to say it was a business and dealing with people's lives, well, hell, why doesn't he just build a bunch of ovens to march us into? Because that's what Adolf Hitler did, and that he looked at that as a business type thing. Again, all these transitions and all these correlations between Trump and Hitler all sum up one thing: tin pot dictatorships. That's what he's wanting to do. Excuse me. He's not willing to take anything off the table. He doesn't want to take anything off the table. Does that mean, I don't know, playing Russian roulette with our rights and liberties?
Of course
I'm
it
willing
does.
to bet, because he thinks everything's negotiable. He thinks that, I'm good. We're going to beat them at the biggest thing. We're going to have the best. We're going to outlast all of them. How do you plan on doing that? Because here's the thing. I don't think he understands how nuclear warheads or nuclear weapons work, or the aftermath of them. Because all it would take would be
a faruking idiot.
No, all it would take would be for one warhead. It doesn't even have to make landfall. It could be detonated 1,000 feet above Washington, D.C., 1,000 feet above Los Angeles, 1,000 feet above Detroit, 1,000 feet above Houston, 1,000 feet above Seattle, and 1,000 feet above New York City. Guess what? That's all they would have to hit us with. They wouldn't even have to make landfall, because there goes our electrical grid, and not to mention all of the nuclear fallouts with our weather patterns here in the United States. All of that nuclear fallout. You want acid rain? You won't even be able to go outside when it's raining like this, because it would just melt you. He doesn't understand that when you push something like this, you're going to have some completely unstable, sawed-off little mental midget with a bowl cut, Kim Jong-un, specifically, that's going to say, United States has weapons. We're going to have weapons too. Matt Damon. We're not going to... He doesn't understand the ramifications of this.
No, he doesn't.
He's a bully. He's a charlatan. He's got small hands.
He's worse than that. He's an idiot. When we are facing a dire threat from the Islamo-fascists who are hell-bent on our complete and utter annihilation, I think it's foolhardy to try and engage in another arms race. Recall that the Mujahideen became the Taliban after we, the United States, infused them with funding to defeat the Soviet Union back in the 80s. That was part of an arms race, and it came back to bite the United States. I think it's interesting that so many of the Lion Branch Trump videos try to proclaim that it's the neocons who were warmongers, yet Trump is the one who is seemingly placing us back into the depths of the Cold War. I think this is reckless beyond all compare. It may put the world on notice, but I don't foresee it placing the world in favor with the United States. When dealing with this sort of issue, we have to consider the totality of the circumstances. That means, how is it going to impact our allies? How is it going to impact our interests across the globe? How is it going to either benefit the United States or harm the United States? And again, Trump hasn't thought any of these things through because Trump doesn't care. Once again, it comes down to Trump being, as you put it, a bully. But it's more to the fact that Trump is just a self-centered asshole. And I don't mean to be crass, but that's what he is. He is a self-centered asshole.
Well, you can't put it any other way. I mean, as far as assholes go, I mean, he's probably the assholiest of them all. You know, he's narcissistic. He's, you know, and a lot of people say, oh, well, he's good-hearted and this. No, he's not. He doesn't care about anybody but himself. He doesn't even care about his family.
He makes the Grinch look compassionate.
He doesn't even care about his family. And you know why I say he doesn't care about his family? For anybody that would allow their family, their immediate family, your offspring, to traipse around the world and be involved with individuals like Putin's daughter or with Al Gore, Chelsea Clinton, if you're willing to allow them to engage in those individuals, you don't care for their safety. You don't care about them because you are setting them up for failure. You are setting them up to be polluted, and you are setting them up to have a severe downfall, which, again, Trump knows. I guess he's not going to forgive anybody in the United States if that happens either, because if he would have lost the election, he would have never forgiven anybody in Connecticut. See, this guy is the most extreme megalomaniac that I've ever seen walk the face of this earth. Mm-hmm. And when he's putting the world on notice, I'm going to answer that question right now. What is he putting the world on notice of? He is putting the world on notice that the United States is getting ready to bend over and take it up the ass with no Vaseline. And he's going to stand there and grin and watch while it happens.
Yeah, of course he is. But, you know, one of the things I want to get to here is, think about this. America was able to engage in the Cold War the way that we did because we were a leading industrial power. However, thanks to the relentless efforts of the frothing at the mouth Fabian socialist leftists and the organized labor obsession that they have, the United States is not the industrial power we were throughout the Cold War. Now, of course, Trump is going to sit there and try and say that he's going to bring it back. America's going to be greatly again because of my small hands and my perfect hair forever. Bullshit. It's not going to work because we are not going to be able to overcome these obstacles if we continue to embrace big government like he's wanting to with this $1 trillion stimulus infrastructure spending plan over the next decade. Things like that are going to hamper us. And so what we are going to see is that we are not the industrial power that we were in the time of the Cold War. And that just isn't going to work. It never does. It never, ever works that way because it is detrimental to the nation as a whole. And folks, I'm getting Jeremy on the phone. We had a temporary loss of internet, so I'm trying to get him back on here. There, I think I've got him.
I'm back.
Okay.
I think I'm back.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I'm going to try and get the phone a little bit closer to the microphone. It's not ideal here, but that should work a little bit. Just keep talking. But, you know, what I'm getting at here, Jeremy, is that the Trumpidians are disregarding the fact that we are not the nation that we were during the Cold War.
Sure. No, they're not. They're not. And, you know, here's the issue is that, again, and I don't know where I fell off or where we got disconnected, but what I was saying was that I can answer the question of what Trump is setting us up for, or what he's putting the world on notice for. Mm-hmm. It's him putting the world on notice that we are, as a nation, eventually are going to be willing to bend over with our high heads in the air, and we're going to be willing to just grin and take it with no Vaseline. Mm-hmm. That's what he's setting up. He's putting the world on notice that we're going to become even weaker than what we are. We're going to become more of a laughing stock. Hell, if you want to get crass about it, essentially he's putting the world on notice that we're going to become the world's bitch.
Yeah.
If you think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, in those sorts of terms.
Yeah. Yeah. And
let me try something here. Let me see if I can reconnect again.
Okay.
See if this works.
All right. It's really sad.
So.
It's really sad that we can't take things under full consideration right now. I think that part of the problem that we're facing here is that we just have forgotten what it is to be free. We've forgotten what it is to be strong, to care about our nation, and to build our nation into something better than what it was. And, you know, the frightening thing here is when you think that Trump has also been out there claiming that we need to get out of NATO, and yet he's saying, let there be an arms race with Russia. What are we going to do if we're not in NATO? What are we going to do to rebuild our strength, to continue to combat the Russian onslaught when we're destroying the various institutions that were devised to be the best quiver, or, you know, the best arrows in our quiver against the Russian menace? It's baffling.
Well, it's not just against the Russian menace. Again, with the arms race, it's going to be not only Russia, but China, India, Pakistan, North Korea, Iran, and all of those countries are already trying to procure nuclear weapons.
I know, but if you recall what NATO was formed for, it was to combat the Soviets.
Yes. Yes.
And that's what Vladdy Putin is trying to reestablish, and Dump is falling for it.
Well, and here's the thing. And again, with all those other countries I mentioned, that just means it's going to put more of a burden on NATO to expand. And it's going to put more on their plate, to where if United States pulls out of NATO like Trump wants, we're sitting ducks. Because here's the other thing. Along with Russia being able to establish a new political ideology that's better than constitutionalism, and they want to usher in communism and socialism, with us being sitting ducks, we know that China owns all of the shipping ports in Mexico. Every single one of them. Now,
and a lot of them here in the United States.
A lot of them here in the United States as well. Now, what's stopping China from, again, going back to the enemy of my enemy is my friend? Russia and China have a mutual enemy in the United States. Them teaming up, even though Russia and China aren't all that buddy-buddy, but they're willing to put their differences aside just to eliminate us. And then they could pull in some other countries, like, I don't know, maybe some countries that decide to fall by way of communism and socialism.
You mean like Duterte there in the Philippines?
Yes. Or here's a worst case scenario. What if Australia decides to go completely leftist and embrace socialism and begins to view the United States as an enemy? The Australians have a pretty damn good navy, from what I understand. Mm-hmm. Now, with that, if that was to happen and they were to team up with China and Russia, well, guess what? They would be able to dock their entire naval fleet in Mexico and off the west coast of the United States. What would stop them? Cuba too. And what would stop them from just rolling over the United States? Remember the movie Red Dawn?
Yeah.
That would be
nothing would stop them.
That would be a walk in the park compared to what these people would be able to do.
Oh, yeah. Of course. You know, this is something that we've tried to warn about. Trump has said that we will outmatch and outlast them all. Odd, coming from a man who said he doesn't even like the phrase American exceptionalism. You see, folks, that's the sort of inconsistency that will get us killed. How can you place the nation on a wartime footing like this without embracing the morale-boosting notion of American exceptionalism? Folks, as he's doing all of this saber rattling, I think we should play back the clip where Trump attempts to define American exceptionalism. Recall, folks, that he is doing all of this crap at the same time, in the same year, less than a year later, from the point of where he said this. And I want you to keep all of it in mind as you listen to this.
Define American exceptionalism. Does American exceptionalism still exist? And what do we do to grow American exceptionalism?
Okay, well, I don't like the term. I'll be honest with you. And people are going to say, oh, he's not patriotic. Look, if I'm a Russian, or if I'm a German, or if I'm a person we do business with, why, I don't think it's a very nice term. We're exceptional. You're not. First of all, Germany's eating our lunch. So they say, why are you exceptional?
Arms race, arms race.
I never liked the term. And perhaps that's because I don't have a very big ego and I don't need terms like that. But
arms race, arms race.
When you're doing business, I mean, I watch Obama every once in a while say American exceptionalism. I don't like the term.
Get a haircut.
To take everything back from the world that we've given them. We've given them so much. On top of taking it back, I don't want to say we're exceptional. We're more exceptional. Because essentially, you're saying we're more.
But we'll bomb the hell out of them. I mean, what the?
You've been eating our lunch for the last 20 years, but we're more exceptional than you. I don't like the term. I never liked it.
But let's have an arms race.
The American exceptionalism, and we're dying. We owe $18 trillion in debt. I'd like to make us exceptional, and I'd like to talk later instead of now. Does that make any sense?
That's good.
Arms race.
The world. And Jim, if you're German, or if you're from Japan,
or Russian, because we're going to start an arms race.
You don't want to have people saying that.
Right.
I never like the expression. And I see a lot of good patriots get up and talk about America. You can think it, but I don't think we should say it.
No, instead, we're just going to start an arms race, because nuclear holocaust is cool and all. I mean, who the hell cares about the United States? Who cares about our best interests? I know what's best. You know how we're going to stop ISIS? We're going to bomb the hell out of them. How? I don't know. We're just going to do it. Why? Because I saw it on TV once.
And that clip right there, it points to the consistent inconsistencies that he is talked about. He says he's not politically correct, but yet, you could think it, but just don't say it. That's one of the 10 commandments of being politically correct. You could think it, just don't say it, because you're going to hurt someone's feelings if you do. And if you think it, eventually, and you don't say it, eventually you'll hurt your own feelings, because you'll realize that you're bad for thinking it and not saying it. And shut the hell up. You want to have an arms race. The only reason why you want to have an arms race is so that you can have somebody talk about some other part of your anatomy other than your smally hands.
Well, you know what, Jeremy, you want to see what he's going to bring back? This is the type of nonsense he's going to bring back. I'm going to take us down a little trip in history. We're going to go back and we're going to recall this little song called Duck and Cover.
Duck and cover. He did what we all must learn to do. You and you and you and you. Duck and cover.
Well, I saw the monkey with the stick of TNT. That's Trump. Mm-hmm. That's Trump. That's what Trump is going to do to our nation. That is what Trump is going to do to us. He is going to destabilize us. He is going to place us in a precarious position, and it's all for his own ego. It's duck and cover. Except I don't want to duck and I don't want to cover. I want to fight back. I want to maintain our liberty. I want to maintain the sovereignty of our nation, and I don't want to just hand it over to this little shill of an idiot who is doing everything in his power to destabilize us, is doing everything in his power to project and promote his type of frothing at the mouth Fabian socialism that is just horrendous. And yes, folks, it is horrendous. There's no other way to describe it. It's not in our best interest. It's not looking out for the American people. It's not securing a robust future for the United States. It is placing us in a precarious position.
See, again, we cannot be tolerant of people throwing away their birthright and obligation as an ultimate wielder of sovereignty. We need to question these things, which is why we do this program. We question why people like Trump are doing the things that they're doing. And it doesn't matter who it is. I don't care if it's the most constitutional conservative person we know that knows the Constitution, this or that. If they act outside the realm of that, if they're willing to forego and forsake constitutionalism and the viability and their ability to act and maintain within the Constitution, they step outside of that framework, we're going to question them. We don't care who they are. Randy, I don't care if it's you, and you don't care if it's me. Vice versa, if we do that, we don't care if it's our first Air Marshal, Nelson Ward. See, this comes down to what we've on numerous occasions mentioned: civil discourse. You see, and that's another one of those things that the left wants to hijack and use against the people. Remember when Obama says, "Oh, we'll sit across the table and drink tea, from Iran, and we'll negotiate this and that."
Get up in their face. Get up in their face. Fight them. Fight them. Fight them. Yeah.
But yet, that's not civil discourse. You cannot have civil discourse with individuals that are hell-bent on your utter destruction. There's only one way to deal with them. You wipe them off the face of the planet. Why? Because if you don't, they're going to get you, and that means that you are no good to your country or to your family, and you're no longer able to fulfill your obligations as an ultimate wielder of sovereignty. It's kind of like the whole, and I'm going to use law enforcement here as an example, okay? Their first priority is to maintain their safety. Why? Because if they're not safe, if they don't act in accordance with their safety and pay attention to their safety, then they're no good to anybody. Just like with us, we the people, if we do not act in accordance with the Constitution and we do not maintain a constitutional lifestyle, we are no good to anybody. We're no good to our fellow citizens, and we're no good to the rest of the world. Because, see, the United States is supposed to be that shining beacon of light, of freedom and endurance and liberty for the rest of the world to see. For the rest of the world to grovel over, to want to have, for them to lust after. And all of that light is going to be extinguished if we don't do something about it. We have to maintain a constitutional presence. And if that means calling Don Quafioso to the carpet on this, and Randy, again, he won't answer us. You and I personally have directly tweeted him, and they went ignored. We've questioned him directly on Twitter, and it's gone ignored. They, much like a whole slew of other individuals, they ignore us because they think they're better than us. They think that they don't have to answer to us. Well, guess what? You're wrong. You have to answer to us, and you have to answer to every other citizen of the United States that is on par with and in line with the viability and the maintaining of the Constitution. Why? Because the Constitution says so. Again, that is a contract between we the people and our government. We are allowing them to operate under said contract at our discretion.
Yeah. But, here's the thing. When you look at the people like the Lion Branch Trumpidians that have gone out of their way to genuflect themselves to accept any and every position of the mafioso quafioso, we see that they don't want to be intellectually disingenuous. They don't want to embrace this. And this is part of the reason why these forces that be, these political powers that be, the status quo, have been ignoring us. They don't want to have to be called to the carpet. They don't want to have to admit that what their positions are diametrically opposed to the dreams, hopes, and future aspirations of the true ultimate wielders of popular sovereignty in this once thriving and flourishing representative republic of ours, we the people. And Trump certainly falls into this category. Now, I saw a report recently where they said that they are going to now begin installing bulletproof glass at Trump Tower. Now, who's going to foot the bill for that? The powers that be in New York are saying that it's going to fall on them, but no, I have a feeling Trump is going to try and use this to say that, well, because I'm serving as president of the United States and my hands are too small to install the panes of glass myself, it's going to be the federal taxpayers that are footed with this bill. You notice he bends over backwards to ensure his own safety and protection, and yet he goes forth without any restraint, without a second thought as to the drivel that is dropping out of his mouth in poisonous gases in a miasma that is threatening to strangle the life out of the United States, placing us in a precarious position. Saber-rattling as he has been with Russia, that is going to essentially rekindle the Cold War, placing us back onto a footing that nobody wants. Even Vladimir Putin didn't want this. That's why he said we're not going to spend that much money. That's we're not, because I'm Vladimir Putin. That's literally what it's coming down to. It's coming down to this nonsense, repeating itself over and over again to the point of ad nauseum, placing the United States in a precarious position. And this is exactly what we said would happen. His consistent inconsistency is literally placing the United States of America in dire straits. There is no way around that. But the Lion Branch Trumpidians don't want to admit it. Well, here's the wake-up call, you idiots. He is placing us in this precarious position. This is not something we can ignore. And it is time that you pull your heads out of your asses and pay attention.
Failure to do so is just, it's going to result in your own demise. And then what's going to happen, Randy? They're going to come back to us, individuals like us, and say, well, we want you to help us because you guys are right along, and now we don't know what to do.
Why I should.
Well, here's the thing. They won't be able to. They won't be able to. Because, see, history shows, and if you go back to the War of Independence, the first American Revolutionary War, it was only 1/3 of our population is all it took to defeat the world's strongest military. And then we had 1812. It was even less than 1/3 to defeat them then. Now, what's the population size of the United States these days? 600 million people?
Something like that.
Yes, somewhere in there. Well, let's say that there's, 1 million people. 1 million people that
I think that like 300 billion.
300 billion. Okay. Let's say 300 billion. 1 million people is just not even a drop in the bucket for that 300 billion.
Mm-hmm.
1 million people stand up and say enough is enough. This is not going to happen again. We're not going to allow this to continue.
I take that back. 318.9 million as of 2014.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. 318 million. So it's still not even a drop in the bucket.
Yeah.
Okay. Less than 3%. So here's the deal. 1 million people stand up and say, "Nah, I'm not doing it anymore. It's not going to happen. You're done. We're pulling you out of office." What are they going to do to stop them? There's nothing that they would be able to do to stop them. What are they going to arrest all of them? Good luck arresting and detaining 1 million people. Good luck corralling 1 million people, because the only way you would be able to do that efficiently and to be able to squash the whole thing would be to violate posse comitatus. And guess what? That would just solidify your fates, because when it comes to the point of tyranny taking a foothold in this country and we the people rising up against that and putting a stop to it, we are within our rights to do so. Utilizing posse comitatus or violating posse comitatus in order to stop that only further proves and solidifies tyranny. Because see, even Putin at that point, and the sawed-off little mental midget with the Velcro, stapled to his head,
the other smally hands,
and the other smally hands, and all the other Tin Pot dictators around the world. See, that would be us putting them on notice. We're willing to do this to our own country, to preserve our own country. We're willing to take out and remove people who are tyrannical against us and our rights. What do you think we're going to do to you? We're willing to hold our own people accountable. Imagine what we're going to do to you should you try to invade, or should you try to do this, or jeopardize the life and well-being and safety of our citizens. If our own elected officials do that and we hold them accountable and we put them in check.
And that's part of the whole reason why Sam Adams said that we had to be a virtuous republic. It was that we had to hold our elected officials accountable, just as we have to hold ourselves accountable. I think that is part of the problem of what we have been missing in generation after successive generation in this once thriving and flourishing representative republic and vibrant community of popular sovereigns of ours. We have not been willing to hold people's feet to the fire. And as a direct consequence, we have seen this nation get pushed further and further astray. We have further distanced and divorced ourselves from the supreme law of the land, which, pursuant to Article 6, Clause 2, what is known in the common vernacular as the Supremacy Clause, is none other than our shared United States Constitution. You see how it works against us. And that's the problem. Trump is not looking to go back to the Constitution. That's why he's wanting to rekindle this arms race. But at the same time, we see that the state of California right now is wanting to push a complete, total, wholesale ban on semi-automatic weapons, guns of any type that is semi-automatic. And you think about this. You think of all of these external threats that are looming off the not-so-distant horizon against these United States of America. And you see that there are these enemies poised to strangle the life out of the United States, to throttle us to death. And yet there is still this incessant drive to strip and deprive the true ultimate wielders of popular sovereignty in these United States of America of their fundamental and inalienable God-given right to keep and bear firearms. The very device of which we would use to destroy the agent provocateurs of tyranny, despotism, but above all, oppression. You see, Trump is not a solution to the problem. He is a contributing factor to it. He is pouring gasoline and kerosene onto the open flame in the hopes of lighting the entire edifice of our country. And what are we going to replace it with? Do we have any of the logistics in work to ensure that our representative republic thrives, survives, and flourishes in the wake of this? No, we don't.
And the thing is, we wouldn't have those logistics in place for at least 100 years. It would take 100 years.
No, if we, necessity being the mother of all invention, I give us 2 decades, 20 years. We could have.
Let me explain why I say 100 years. Because it would take 100 years to get us back to functioning the way that the founding fathers intended. Yeah, we could reinstitute our government. We can have reinstitute the rule of law, but we would still have things going on that would have to be dealt with.
Sure.
You know, all these little, you know, flickering embers that kind of, you know, got caught on the wind and got scattered. We would still have a lot of fires to put out. It would take 100 years to get all the flames extinguished.
I don't think it would take that long. And let me explain. I don't think it would take that long because during the chaos of that war, we would become as hard-hearted as our founding fathers were, and we would treat them the way they treated the Tories, which means tar and feather and kick out.
Yeah, but I'm saying after the war, I mean, for the full 100-year term, we would still have small sects.
You're always going to have that. You're always going to have that.
But to get back to the actual functionality, and I'm talking the functionality of, let's say, 1812. Okay.
I'd say 20 years tops.
20 years tops? I'll split the difference with you. Let's go 50 years. How's that?
35, and your haggling's done.
Nah. That. We'll keep that open for discussion. How's that?
The reason I say it, though, is you think about it. In World War I, just to go from technology, do you realize that they gained 80 years in technology and aircraft design in 4 years?
Sure. Well,
I think the same thing would happen in government.
I could see it happening. I can, but trying to be a realist, because you're always going to have individuals, again, all these other factions. But at any rate, the point is if we don't be mindful of what's going on now, if we don't hold people accountable now, that's what we have to look forward to. And that's not something that I want my grandchildren to have to deal with.
Let's put it this way. It will be 100 generations worth of pain that we will suffer.
Sure. And it would all be in vain for that, if you think about that, because look at all the individuals that put their lives on the line and actually gave their lives for the preservation of our republic. And you and I are both willing to do that should it come to it, without a question. There would be no question about that whatsoever. But again, looking at the word posterity found in the preamble of the Constitution, our future generations, you know, I don't want my grandkids to have to worry about, you know, impending doom from some dictator country like Russia or China coming in to invade them. You know, we need to nip this in the bud now. And this goes back to what I was saying before. Anybody that is hell-bent on the destruction of our republic, we take the fight to them, and we do it Jeremy Bentham style. Swift and fast, to just hit them and be done with them. That way you don't have to worry about it, and make an example out of them so that other countries, if they're even thinking about it, they'll stop even thinking about it, unless they're really stupid and then want to try it anyways.
North Korea.
Yeah, which that would be the first ones that I would hit. Just because they seem to be that arrogant. And then I would make a phone call to Vlad. I'd make a phone call to China. I'd make a phone call to everybody else and say, we made North Korea glow in the dark. Who's next?
Yeah. Now, I know that the Lion Branch Trumpidians are going to try and sit there and say, well, that's what Trump's doing. You see, you guys are just siding with the leftists that are against nuclear proliferation, and therefore you're just leftist, you know, stifling little weasels. No, you jackrabbits. That's not what we're doing. We are willing to use any and every advantage that the United States of America can possibly possess in order to secure our future and the blessings of liberty for our posterity. The problem is the way that Trump is engaging in this is so consistently inconsistent that it is placing us in a precarious position because we are not prepared to take on these forces. As Jeremy had mentioned earlier in this evening's program, we have stretched our military might and forces far too thin to be able to address these problems in a practicable and fast-paced fashion. In other words, our interests, our national security interests, are teetering on the precipice of destruction. We can ill afford to allow that to become the fate of these United States of America. And the only way that we can prevent this from happening is to go back to basics. And that means going back to strict adherence to the clear and concise language contained within the four corners of our shared United States Constitution at any and all levels of government. It really is that cut and dry, that black and white, that simple. But Trump's not going to do that. Trump has admitted by his own fruition that he has never once read the Constitution from cover to cover because he didn't find any intrinsic or inherent value in that sacred document that composes the supreme law of the land. And so as long as he's willing to admit that, and as long as he's willing to go out on these reckless tirades on the Twitter sphere, it is going to weaken the United States. There is no way around that. I wish that there were. I wish that there were words of comfort and solace. I wish that there were little tinfoil pieces of gold that we could put around his stubby fingers so they couldn't type on his phone anymore. But it's just not going to work.
Now, I have a question, and I've been pondering this question throughout the duration of this episode, and I still haven't figured out an answer to it yet. Why would he even want an arms race when, A, we already had an arms race? Wouldn't an arms race mean that, you know, it's essentially a race to obtain a weapon that has not been obtained yet?
Well, Jeremy, let me throw a wrench in on this. Think back to what he did with Boeing, okay? Mm-hmm. Think back of how he says we're going to gut the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter program. Oh, it's too expensive. I mean, look at my hair. I gotta have all of the taxpayer money to have hairspray. But here's the problem. You have to have expensive equipment and materiel in order to be the best, in order to win that type of a fight. You know where all of that really got started? It was in the dying days of the Second World War, in the beginning of the whole Cold War. And think back to this. During the Manhattan Project, you know, that project that developed Fat Man and Little Boy that were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Oppenheimer and the other communist cronies like the Rosenbergs were there giving our technology to the Russians so that before the guns of the Second World War even fell silent, they were already a leg up on us.
But here's my question.
But you look at the people that Trump has brought on. Tillerson, who has ties with Russia. Paul Manafort, who had ties with Russia. Lewandowski, that had ties with Russia. Why do I not feel so secure that if we even do get into an arms race, that the Russians aren't going to get the upper hand on us because, I don't know, our national security is compromised?
But here's my question. We had an arms race with the Manhattan Project, and the whole point of that was to develop the nuclear bomb. Now, is there some kind of magical weapon out there that dwarfs a nuclear bomb? Because Russia already has nuclear weapons. China has nuclear weapons. They want to get back to
the neutron bombs. They want to have the hydrogen and neutron bombs. But again, we've supposedly gotten rid of them on both sides. This is rekindling that.
But here's the thing. Anybody believes for a second that we got rid of those weapons is a fool. Because it goes right back to the mutually assured destruction. Russia cannot be trusted. They've never been trusted. So why would we trust them to get rid of those weapons?
All right, you want to know what it really comes down to? Everything today is miniaturized.
So, chemical weapons, chemical warfare.
Have a nitrogen or hydrogen bomb that you can set off in something no larger than your smartphone.
See, and what's the whole point of that? Because
death
again, well, right, mass and mutually assured destruction. I get all that, but see, if Trump wants MAGA, why would he even go about doing it this way? See, this is the question.
Oh, you're operating from the presupposition that he wants to make America
I'm being
great.
facetious. I'm being facetious about all of this because
I know.
the whole thing is, see, to logically and reasonably thinking individuals, this is absolute suicide. It's absolute suicide.
I thought the same
utter
thing
death and
I read
chaos.
about Oppenheimer giving it away to the Soviets in the first place.
So here's the thing. People really have to question why he would do this. Of course, we have all the Lion Branch Trump videos that, oh, well, he's just doing it. No, see, they're willfully going along with this. He needs those people to willfully go along with him. They are what, I believe it was Lenin that called people useful idiots. That's what they are. And the more
Robespierre to a lesser extent.
Sure. But when these people sit there and they condone this, they tolerate this from him, it just goes to show how stupefied this country has become. See, the whole point of Trump doing this, like you said, is complete and total death and destruction. Why? Because he doesn't have any values. He doesn't care about anybody but himself. He's already fortifying Trump Towers with bulletproof glass. He probably has numerous bunkers all over the country, maybe even all over the world. Got some rendezvous where he can meet up to where he's perfectly safe. And if he wants to take his family along too, okay, fine, whatever. But he doesn't give a damn about people. That's what this all boils down to. He doesn't care about this country. All he cares about, and is all he's ever said before, I care about winning. We're going to win big.
Money.
We're going to win this. We're going to win that. And
if I lose, it'll be the biggest, beautiful waste of money.
Right.
That's all he cares about is himself. That's, we've warned about that over and over again to the point of it being ad nauseum. But his loudest acolytes and followers don't care. And, I do have to admit that I thought it was kind of funny that Michael Weena Savage came forth and said that this whole thing of China stealing that underwater drone that we had was in response to his saber rattling against them and the reach out to Taiwan. And again, the Lion Branch Trump Vidians flooded Michael Weiner Savage's page to say that, Mikey, you just don't get it. You don't get it. The Smalley one understands. No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. The Smalley one doesn't give a damn. That's what we've been warning you about for 1 year and 4 months now. And the only way that we can rectify this is to get back to the Constitution, is to get back to the various ways of thought and approach that propelled this nation to the lofty heights that we have managed to achieve in our relatively brief yet illustrious history. But that requires that we proactively go out and seek the truth, that we proactively go forth and realize what it is that made us great in the first place. And, that's part of the problem with this shallow, hollow, empty, and meaningless platitude that was the campaign slogan of the Trump camp, that of MAGA, make America great again. I'm going to go do drugs. It's that meaningless. It's that contradictory in its scope and application of terms that it makes no sense whatsoever. And therefore, it does leave us in a precarious position. But you know what? We in this nation still have a manner and method in which we can bring this nation back from the precipice of degradation, destruction, decay, and death. And that is the Constitution. It is the key that has been with us since the inception of this nation some 235 plus years ago. It's just as applicable today as it was at the inception of this country, as God willing it will be some 235 plus years from today. But in order to achieve that, we must foster that fluent and working knowledge and understanding of our shared United States Constitution, and thereby our fundamental and inalienable God-given rights. That's what we are dedicated to here at Radio Aviation Excellence, the Wright Flyer. Now, with that said, it is time for us to begin our descent. I'm going to go ahead and send the flight attendant back with one last round of alcohol. No, folks, that is not nuclear alcohol, but it will make you feel thermonuclear when you have a little bit too much of it, because it is good that way. As always, folks, I'm your captain, Randy Wright, and I want to thank you for choosing to fly the Wright Flyer. We here at the Wright Flyer do wish you a very Merry Christmas, or a Ramahana Kwanzaa if you are of the politically correct sort of drivel.
Which we're not.
Yeah, which, of course, we are not. Please, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, or even topic suggestions, feel free to leave them either here in the comment section at our YouTube page, our Google Plus page, or our Facebook page. And on top of that, I invite you to follow us at Twitter with the Twitter handle at Radio Aviation EX. One more time, folks, that's at Radio Aviation EX, where you will find the departure board that lists Jeremy's personal Twitter account, my personal Twitter account, the Blogspot account, where we put up alternative links to our videos, as well as the audio-only versions of our state-of-the-art radio program. And then there is the Cafe Press account. Jeremy, tell them a little bit about the Cafe Press account.
Well, folks, Cafe Press account, of course, this is Christmas, Christmas Eve being tomorrow night.
Gifts probably won't arrive on time now.
Right, probably not. But hey, you know, it's not our fault. You had your opportunity. That's just how it comes down to it. But I do want to make an apology to everybody regarding the Cafe Press account. We did not have ugly Christmas sweaters on there. We didn't have ugly Christmas sweaters on there. Why? Because all you have to do, look at my ugly Christmas face. That's all you have to do. So even though my face isn't for sale on there yet, anyways, it could be, but Randy's gorgeous, beautiful face may be for sale on some of our items, like shot glasses, drinking glasses, clocks, bumper stickers, license plates, you name it, folks. It's probably there, except for ugly Christmas sweaters. Maybe next year, if you're good little boys and girls.
Yeah, maybe. If not, just push the flight attendant out of the plane. I'm sure she doesn't care. As always, folks, thank you for tuning into the Wright Flyer. We will see you again next time. Please do take care.